The 13th floor. The 13th floor.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. We're running with a skeleton crew today. But before I get to that, man, look, we've been getting some comments and some feedback about we need to upgrade our furniture, and we would absolutely do that. What we need you all to do, we need you all to subscribe and to leave reviews, comments. Again, you can find us on a bunch of different platforms. Let's fire them off. SoundCloud. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Google Play. You can find us on Spotify.
Vimeo.
Where else? Vimeo. You can find us on Vimeo.
If Fresh is on here, he'll be like, "Hey, stop playing. I stop sleeping on Vimeo."
Right. You can also find us on Instagram. We are at 13th Floor Please. That's at 13th Floor Please. So absolutely drop us your feedback, drop us your comments. We've been hearing some things about the last couple episodes. And hopefully today, man, we'll give you all some good stuff that you guys can really groove with. I think I got the two best people for what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, let me go ahead and introduce my guys. So I got Jay Dace is in the building.
Hey, what's going on, family? Another beautiful day in paradise as always, man.
Good. Jay, I'm gonna come back to you in 1 second, so don't go anywhere. And then I got BJ, who is becoming the only Jones that we have on here slowly but surely. The other one's kind of fading out, but what's going on, sir?
Everything is all good, man. Blessed and highly favored. We're here to see another day and we're waiting to make sure, hopefully, we see another one. Let's get it. Let's make it happen.
That's what I'm talking about. Man, fresh from the University of Miami. What was it, man? What kind of day was it?
Family Fun Day. First annual Family Fun Day, kind of co-sponsored with the Alumni Association from the College of Engineering. The Black Alumni Society kind of jumped on as well. It was the first event. We had over 100 people out. It was carnival style. So games, food. We each ran a booth. Had carnival games out there. It was a blast, man. We had a good time, and I think everybody who came out had a great time. And I'm tired. That was the second event for the day for me, so that was good.
Wow, that's what's up, man. So for all of you Canes that are out there, for those of you that went, we definitely appreciate the support. And for those of you that couldn't go because you're like me, you live out of state. Man, let's get some alumni stuff going in our respective cities with all our different alumni chapters that are all around the country.
There's something coming your way too, K. Be on the lookout in the Chicago area. I was talking to alumni relations today, but that's a whole nother story. You just reminded me.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Hopefully they're smart and they do it when it's warm and when it's not when it's cold. Because there'll be low participation, just like the low temperature.
They got a small window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To do so.
Yeah. And listen, there's a lot of competition because my understanding is everything goes on here once it warms up. Like everybody's like, nope, not yet. Give it a couple more weeks and there'll be more things that you could even think about doing and you'll actually be able to do. So nice. That was a little tongue twister there, but I got it out. Don't laugh at me, ladies and gentlemen. But if you do want to laugh, just leave a comment about it. Make fun of me. I won't be mad at you. Jay Dace, man. So this is our fitness guy. This is our health guy. And man, you had a little scare last week.
Oh, no doubt.
Ambulance, like wow.
Right.
Yeah, man. So man, tell us what occurred, man.
Man, so I was at work. It was Monday, April 1st, actually. So I was at work, man, and my head was hurting, my stomach was hurting, wasn't exactly sure what was going on. Sharp stabbing, stomach pains. That's a tongue twister right there. Sharp stabbing, stomach pains, and man, it was just like it just kind of got overwhelming to the point where I had to I buckled over. Like I actually was in a office and I was just laying on the floor and I had to literally ask for a nurse to come check me out. But coupled with all that, man, I had that day was the second anniversary of my mom's passing, right? So it was kind of like, if you will, a perfect storm for like everything. So the stress and the grief and the mental warfare of that, dealing with that, right? Because me and my mom was crazy close, so still dealing with that, and then me not feeling well and it being busy at work, so I couldn't really eat, so I wasn't really getting a lot of nutrition, and all of that kind of came crashing down to the point where they had to call the ambulance, and I was rushed to the emergency room, and come to find out that I had a low blood sugar of like 52. Never had it happen before, but it was eerie to a point because my mom passed from type 2 diabetes or cardiomyopathy. But, type 2 diabetes was like kind of the catalyst of it all. So for me to have a low blood sugar on the anniversary, it was kind of like eerie. But yeah, man, it was definitely a scare.
Man, that's interesting, man. And I guess one of the things that I want to ask you is, one, have you gotten any results back to let you know, hey, this is exactly what went wrong? Was it just low blood sugar and that was it?
Yeah, everything. They did blood tests. They did, urinalysis. They did a CT scan because I ended up passing out. Or I went unresponsive twice, actually. So they did a CT scan to make sure that there was nothing going on, so in that sense. But yeah, I mean, everything came back normal. It was just literally my body just crashed from not having anything in it.
There must have been a whole bunch of things because some of the symptoms you described is not just low blood sugar by itself.
Right.
And then, like you said, I don't recall you let us know that you went unresponsive twice. That's brand new news to me right there. So I'm like that. Like I'm really concerned right now.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't realize it. This is what I was told. Like they were talking to me, and I just wasn't really respond, or my response were like very limited. So it wasn't necessarily like a conversation like this, right? So I couldn't really respond properly, So it was like, okay, so this guy is. That's why they did the CT scan because I was going in and out. They wanted to make sure that there was nothing neurologically going wrong, But yeah, I looked up symptoms of low blood sugar, and what I was experiencing, kind of disoriented, not being able to focus, headache, feeling my body felt so heavy. I couldn't lift myself up. And like you said, I'm a fitness dude. So and that was a struggle for me. But
yeah. So man, that's just mind blowing to think that you do all this stuff. You talk about fitness constantly, not just physical, but emotional, mental fitness, right?
Right.
Getting ready to be fit.
Right.
And then you just have this episode that's kind of unexplained. And it's almost like, man, you just missed your mama so much that you just wanted a couple seconds to go check her out.
Right. I mean, it was just a crazy experience, man. And I just feel like just mentally, I think that was kind of like the how do I say, the heavy part of it. You do look at yourself as this health person and this fitness person. Then it's like, well, what's going on with this guy? And then, and even in like the mental part of like you said, missing my mom and not feeling like you can talk about it,
So let me ask you this, man. In light of that, I tell you what, man, hey, turn your volume down just a little bit.
Okay, I got you. Maybe I got excited about it. No, not excited, but I got a little emotion. Let me try.
It's all right, man. You good.
It's all good, man. Yeah, I try to move the microphone up towards you a little bit, too.
I got you.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. I can still hear it a little bit. Move the microphone up a little bit more or push the computer back some.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think so. I only hear it when we talk. I
can throw the headphones back on.
No, I think you're good, man. We want you to have the same rights as everybody else. All right. So what I was going to say was in light of that situation, right? So normally when we have these close encounters, there's a certain level of awareness that we have after the fact, right? So what has happened in the days after now that you've realized, man, that could have been it if I wasn't in the right place at the right time? Because if you'd have been someplace else and didn't have stuff right there available to you, who knows?
Right. Because actually I was telling my manager that I wasn't feeling good, and she said, and I told her that, what that day was for me. And she said, if you feel like you have to go home, I completely understand. So, and that was just like an hour before all of that went down. So like, man, it's crazy that you say that, because what if I did go home and I'm at home by myself, you know what I mean? Nobody's here. But I think for me, the biggest thing that I like, obviously just making sure that I'm eating on a regular and making sure I'm constantly getting my nutrition intake, right? But I don't know if the stress and the grief part of it played as much of a role as the emergency room doctors, made it out to be. But just really opening my mouth, man, and just talking about some stuff. That was like the eye opener for me. Because I mean, I was trying to mentally prepare myself for that day, April 1st, but I guess I look at it like I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to put that burden on somebody else. And I'm used to carrying, ironically, my mom's the same way. I'm used to carrying people's burden, but I feel like if I give it back to you or I give you mine, then that's like, I'm used to taking, I'm not used to giving, if that makes sense. So that was a big eye opener for me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of people out there that do that.
Definitely.
They carry the burden and they don't ever want to feel like they are doing the same thing that people do to them. They don't want to feel like they're putting on anybody else. Right.
100%.
And I feel like a big part of our group, we're all people that do that. And that's why we're here. But the big thing is that now that you know that, what are you going to do about it?
Definitely. Open my mouth. Just and be okay with that, and understand that people legit want to be there for me on that level, because with the love I got when I came back, they were just like, yo, people was texting me while I was out. I was out for like 3 days. So people was texting me while I was out, making sure I was good and just like asking and checking on me. So allowing people to be what I am for them, I feel like that's showing love back. That's an example of showing love. That's an example of showing, hey, I trust you. I appreciate you on that level, because when you are just taking from them and you're not allowing them to be, to give back to you, it's not fair. It's not fair for you. It's not fair for the other person. So,
right.
Yeah, definitely open your mouth, man, and just, let people know.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's so funny. Like he's so scared of us that he didn't tell us until he was back home and good to go already, because he knows that we would have appeared and just, I'll slap you in the hospital bed, man. Stop playing.
Right. Right. I was like, because I know, with the groove, I got like, let me get my ducks in a row. let me get it figured out for a second, and I'll put it out there. Because you did. I was like, I knew you was gonna come with some questions, and you had, and you did not disappoint, Kay. You did not disappoint.
Listen, man, you got a lot of work to do, man. So we need to make sure that you're here for the long haul, right?
Right. No doubt.
But good, man. I really appreciate you sharing that, because there's somebody out there that needs to hear this message, and somebody needs to understand that. Look, it could be you tomorrow. It could be you in the next couple of hours. So, if you have any type of feelings, things that you're just holding inside, find somebody to talk to. If you want, just shoot us a message, a DM on Instagram. It could be on Facebook, whatever it is. I know they say it goes down on the DM, but we definitely keep you up. DM.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, man. But you know what? That's a perfect segue. So you talked about keeping those relationships whole, right?
Right.
It's not just a give. It's a mutualism. There's a mutual thing there. And I want to build a little bit on our conversation about us last week. So we talked about us at a very, I think, in-depth level. As I said, we've been getting some feedback on that episode. For those of you that haven't heard it, that's episode 111. You can go back where we break down the many themes and topics in the movie Us. So one of those things was being a whole version of yourself, right? And I feel like you two guys are probably the best people to have on this week to talk about this, because one, it starts with educating our kids from a young age, that it's okay to be yourself. You need to be yourself and develop, yourself 360 degrees of yourself. And then Jay, from the mentality of, you may have this one thing going on really good in your life, and you're ignoring these other things. So I guess the question for you guys today is, how do we give people, like if we could give people, 4 to 5 things that they can do to really make sure that they are being a whole version of themselves, and even starting from young, how do we train that? So I guess, BJ, I'll go to you first. How do we give kids that opportunity to really develop into who they are, and not have them be fragmented versions of themselves?
So one of the conversations I was having with a coworker, with a few coworkers across the state last week, we were all together. And it starts at home, but it's really the influence of outside that it comes to play, is that too many kids are lost in the struggle of trying to fit in and try to fit into what else society says that they should be or their age group should be, instead of them figuring out who they are for themselves, right? And it's okay to not be in the in crowd. And again, it may sound so cliche. I mean, people have these conversations for years ago. I mean, even when we were younger, just be yourself. You don't have to do everything else everybody does, but it truly starts with helping a kid explore all the areas of their interest and just let them be themselves and teach them it's okay in certain situations, that it may be different than the norm, but it's okay, right? But also through your own actions. You can't tell them that if you're not willing to be vulnerable and let them see that in you as well. And by that, I mean, so if you're the one that around your family, you're one way, but when friends or family members or church members come around, they see you as a totally different person. You're not being your true self. And they see that, and kids pick up on that. Their emotional intelligence is very, very high at a young age. They're able to pick up on your switching, and you're not really being yourself. Like when you're with them, you're warm and fuzzy and cuddly, but all of a sudden somebody come around, you have this wall up that you can't talk to anybody or let anybody in, or how you interact with people, or you're I mean, God forbid we use the example, you're all holy on Sundays when it comes to church or events, but the rest of the week, your kids see you as, that's not what you're portraying. They see you put on that mask, right? I wasn't on the call last week, but they see you put on that mask. As soon as Sunday church is over with, or that prayer meeting is over with on Wednesday, you're a totally different person, right? So you have to be able to be comfortable in your own skin and go against the grain and show them what some of your vulnerabilities are, those areas that may not align with everybody your age group, right? Or everybody who looks like you or talks like you or walks like you. How you're different, and show them that it's okay, and I'm going to support you in that process as well.
Yeah. And that's great, man. There are so many analogies we could use, but that Sunday church one is big, because we all know people that do it. We see you Monday through Saturday, and you are in full heathenism. And then for those couple hours on Sunday, it's Sunday morning. So you wake up and you're all white. And as soon as church service is over, it's like, man, where is there a Sunday happy hour? And let me get myself a half rack of some pork ribs, and let's do the thing. Right. So obviously, look, kids are very smart, so they can see through that stuff, but you're also setting them up for their actions as grown-ups and adults. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because that whole sequence you said of the kids, of them trying to fit in, that's something that we do as adults. Adults grow up to be adults that still try to fit in.
Correct.
And when you find yourself being a square in the middle of a circle, all of a sudden that's a problem, and you run out there and you try to cut corners off of that square so you can fit into the circle. Mm. And Jay, that's where I'm gonna come to you, because you are somebody that's coming into your own, and you look at many different aspects of life. But as an adult, why do you feel that people feel that pressure still, that they have to fit in to a certain group to be accepted?
I mean, I think that it was never learned. They never were learned anything else, or they never learned any other way. Like you continue to do what you were taught until you learn a different way. And they never took the time, or nobody ever came along to show them another way, right? So I want to say something about what BJ said about how kids can see through the falsehood, you know what I mean, that people portray, and how important it is for, you know, adults in their lives of children to be consistent. Because ultimately people say that they want to be an individual within a crowd, but I don't think that that's the case when it comes to becoming who we are. Because we learn we become who we are based on the people around us, right? So I think that we're more so a crowd within an individual. That's just my like philosophy on it, and you have to be okay with that and take pieces that work in your best benefit and discard the ones that's not necessarily for you. But the only way you can do that is, and it's so crazy, but the only way you do that is spending time with yourself. Literally, like being okay with being alone, and knowing that you're not necessarily alone if you're with you, but being with you. And I think that that's a skill or an art that a lot of people don't know how to execute on, because it's like when you're alone, now I have to think about stuff. Now I have to pay attention to stuff that I don't necessarily want to pay attention to. So when you're alone, now you can understand who you are as an individual, what you like about yourself, what you don't like, and do something about it. And then embrace that, what you find, accept it, because at the end of the day, it's you, right? And then now you can act on those things and either continue to do those things, or like I said, discard what didn't work for you. And it's a constant cycle. And as you continue that cycle over and over again, know, embrace, act, know, embrace, act. Now you literally become who you're going to be because you did the work to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think what's happening is that we suppress that voice for so long, right? That inner voice, that person that for whatever reason we tried to alienate ourselves from, right? Mm-hmm. And you add all this noise around you so that you don't hear that voice. So you drown that voice out. So to your point, I think the conversation people fear most is that conversation that happens in when you're by yourself. Right. So it's essentially that conversation you're having with yourself that people fear the most, because that thing calls you out like no other person can. 100%. Right. But if you can have a conversation, right, and if you think about it, one of the biggest problems we have as people is communicating with other people, right? Mm-hmm. Now, does that problem really stem from the inability for us to have a successful communicative relationship with ourselves? And because you can't solve that issue, now you can't communicate with anybody else properly.
I can see the groundwork in that statement. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I feel like people are in a rush to be able to say, like it's a end all be all, right? In a rush to be able to say, I know myself. You know what I mean? Like I know who I am and I'm secure in that. Like I feel like that's like people are in a rush to do that. And it's like it's a process, you know, because you're an ever evolving individual.
But do you know? But do you really know who you are if you deny the worst parts of you, right? Or the unaccepted parts of you, do you really know yourself?
Right. I feel like to know thyself is basically you have to, if you know, don't you accept? And if you're not accepting, then like you said, do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how do we get there, right? So I think a theme that I'm starting to see, right? So one of the things that they say that the most successful people do is they wake up early, right? The other thing is that I'm starting to realize is that most people that are successful from our eyes, because a lot of those people don't see themselves as successful, they're still working towards it. As you said, it's constantly evolving. So the bar always moves, but that's a whole nother podcast. But I think the other thing that those people do is they find time to basically meditate in some form or fashion, right? Whether it be through daily prayer or actually going through meditative techniques. And that, in a sense, is you basically quieting the external noise so that you can listen to the internal, right? And eventually that voice becomes one. You're always acting in the spirit of that unified voice.
Right.
So if we could drop anything out there, man, I know Jay, you started meditating a few months ago. Are you still doing that practice?
Actively. Like I love meditation. It literally, like you said, it cancels out. It forces you to look within. You know what I mean? And it's crazy what you find. I just think that meditation is a practice that everybody should implement. And it doesn't really have to be like there's this belief that you have to sit down, with your legs crossed and fingers like this. You know what I mean? And I mean, I do sit down with my legs crossed, but I carve out time because I know the value of it. But for some of us, we could literally be just going for a walk and kind of zone out, in nature. And that's a form of meditation. Literally it's just not necessarily trying to control your thoughts, but allowing yourself to be free, letting your mind be free and roam and see what it finds. You know what I mean? Going on like a mini adventure internally. And I think that it's so therapeutic that it can literally change your life. But like you said, I think that it's fearful because people don't know what they're going to find. And if I can stay distracted with Facebook, if I can stay distracted with Instagram or with socializing or whatever the case may be, if I can stay distracted, I don't have to look at what I may find. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's key, man, because I feel like it's not just a matter of prayer or meditation. Even people that wake up early and go work out, most of the time, you're with yourself. What you say, BJ?
I said whatever that thing is for you, for your spirit, for your mind to clear. Some people is working out. Like some people I know, they go running and they'll run, and by the time they look up and actually they're not running with a plan in mind. They're just running or riding a bike. And then next thing you know, it's running their 5-6 miles out and have to run back, and they're okay with that. Riding a bike, they're gone on a 10, 12, 15-mile bike ride and just come back. They're good. Some people I know is certain type of music listening to. Other people I know is just sitting out in nature, like Jay was talking about. Like they go on their back porch, and their back porch is their area of peace. Like whatever flowers, whatever scenery, whatever, they're near water, something like that. That's just what they need to come to that place for them. And a lot of people have not found that. And that struggle of, again, identifying, like you said, what is that for me, and identifying what that is and partaking in it on a regular basis to clear my mind, to have that chance to kind of talk with myself and figure out what is I'm saying to me and how real I am with myself or not before I can communicate with everybody else is very, very important. Over the last few years, I've let a lot of stuff go through, and for me, it's prayer. It got back to the point of spending that time, of intentionally spending time in prayer. And I can't say meditation, but I guess that would be my form of meditation, right?
Right.
In that sense. But for me, that has been the game changer as far as me clearing my mind, coming to peace with a lot of stuff over the last few years that has been harping on my life and kind of putting roadblocks up for years, and being able to move on and genuinely live carefree of all the stuff I was carrying around for a while. That only came with me realizing what that stuff was and having those genuine conversations with myself and realizing that, okay, what do I need to do to address it and then move on for the sake of relationships, for the sake of my family, for the sake of everything else going on, for work, for everything else.
Right, 100%. And then that's because when you don't do that, when you don't take that time to really reflect and look at those things going on in your life, that's when you have people saying stuff like, I need a vacation. You know what I mean? Like, what do you need a vacation for? You need a vacation from reality? And it's like, why? And I just think that that's a common phrase that you hear. It's like, oh, I need a vacation. It's like, why? Because you not dealing with stuff. And if you start to deal with it, then your life or your reality wouldn't be as crazy as you think it would be. But no, 100%. I don't want to digress a little bit, but I know that for me, when it came to finding myself or even starting the process of finding myself, two things that I had to let go of was, one, comparison, and two, the word should. Like, this is how I should be. This is how I should behave. This is how I should think, or this is what I should be going after. And compare myself to what somebody else may be doing or how somebody else is. Because when I was doing that thing, it was like, I was depressed. You know what I mean? Because I never like lived up. It was always something. I never was enough in that sense. But once I let go of those things, I found out that I was. You know, that as an individual, I was more than enough. And I think that that's the freedom that people are looking for. And those are two things that, for me, those are two things I think people can do. If they can let go of those two things, and they may be a little better off.
Man, that's some powerful stuff you guys just said. And I want to go back to the prayer portion for a second, right? Because a lot of times people are praying and you're asking God for things and it goes unanswered. Right.
So,
and it's almost like, if I'm God, why am I answering your prayer if you're not even using all of the gifts and the talent that I gave you to begin with, because you are shunning a portion of yourself, and I made that part too. So if you're not even willing to use your whole self yet, why am I giving you anything if you're not giving you the things that I gave you from your birthright?
So you hit the nail on the head perfectly, right? But one of the things that if you're gonna really call yourself a believer and go down that path and understand what's going on, there's a couple realities that you have to have, and a couple pivotal moments, epiphanies, that through situations you can come to. Some people can tell you about these things, but unless you experience them, you're kind of just out there wondering, well, this is the way they said Christian life should be, or this is the way this religion life should be. And one of those things is that you can't rush God's plan. The second is that you will never know the entirety of the plan that's for you. Just because you want it doesn't mean that's what's right for you or God wants for you right now at this moment. And then when we talk about praying for something, I'm a firm believer that in the passage, prayer without works, right?
100%.
And we always go back to the example of people praying for a job. Great. Well, are you actively looking for a job?
Right.
You can't pray for a job and sit at home and wait for something to drop your lap, somebody to knock on your door and say, hey, I'm going to hire you. No, the works have to be there. You have to be putting out your best effort. You have to make sure that, again, your resume is tight. You don't have bad relationships, because you have to have that referral on your resume when they call and check references. You have to, go out and actively seek. You're not just sitting around waiting. You have to put some work in as well. And also when you're thinking about a time frame, because, and it may seem cliche and people may refute. What I've come to believe is that, again, the whole thing, everything happens in its time, right? And again, it's very, very cliche, and you can hear that a million times a day. But if I can trace back the number of things that have happened when I wanted it to happen and how I felt flat on my face, but then I was able to be patient, still prayerful about it, but going on with life and make sure that I'm doing the right things there and being faithful in all the things that have been given to me. Then that's when I started seeing and reaping the rewards later on that line. When it was my time, it was my time. At that time, it was because I was forcing it, and that wasn't God's plan. If it was just something to give, you say a prayer and just give it to you. It's just like, think about it. You're a kid asking your parent for money all the time or something like that. Ask them and they just give it to you. How grateful are you for that stuff? No, you just come to expect it, right?
Right.
So you say, God, I want this. Bam, you got it. All right. That sense of gratefulness is depleted from that equation. Right. So you go back to the whole sense of grace and mercy. Things you you don't deserve, and keep you from things that you do deserve, right? Protection every day, all day. I thank God that I quietly I laugh at myself. I fell down at work. I fell down at school a couple weeks ago, right?
Somebody else holding back information.
No, it wasn't health-wise. I was so busy looking up information for somebody, and you know me, I'm always trying to help somebody, right? So they asked me a question. I knew exactly where to look it up. I was looking at my phone, and we were walking down some steps. I thought I missed the last step completely, right? I totally missed the last step. I had to laugh at myself. Luckily, it was only me and two other people. There were no kids in the hallway or nothing like that. So, because I still would have had to laugh at myself, but at the same time, I'm like, that could have hurt a bit, right? But when I look, I forgot where I was going with the whole story now. but okay, so I'm talking about, so when I was looking at, like, look, pay attention to what you're doing and be engulfed in conversation. Like, you can help people, but you don't have to rush and do stuff in your time, right? I know it's a trivial thing, but I really learned a lesson there. I'm so busy trying to help somebody, I didn't look out for my own safety at that point in time. It was an outside stairwell. I literally could have been at the top step. It fell all the way down concrete stairs, right? It's a little thing like that as a reminder, like, okay, yeah, be patient, put your phone down, do what you gotta do. When you get back there, do it. When you're driving, I really stopped trying to text and respond to people when I'm driving, because I have my kids in the car. And I've had a couple scares over time. Was like, you know what? That right there is enough to, like, put the phone down in your car. Even when I'm late for something now, if something happens, I leave the house and traffic there, and, like, I don't get frustrated anymore. Stuff happens, life happens. Like, you know what? Had I been here, maybe this is protecting me from something else happening down the road. From 5 minutes down the road, I would have been across the intersection. God willing, somebody else would have come through and I would have been gone. So I stopped looking at everything as a penalty, and just, it's not asking why all the time, but what for. And honestly, that was a message preached like 2 Sundays ago for me. Like, stop asking why, ask what for. Not why did this happen to me? What can I use this situation for? And how can I grow from it? 100%. And that was another revelation for me at that Sunday, sitting there hearing that sermon for me. And again, that was just last couple of weeks of all the stuff happening.
100%. You better preach.
Right.
Right.
That's
Rubra.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We need Mike on the call right now.
Man, when you missed that step, did you roll?
Nah, I caught myself on the rail. But had I been up a couple steps, yeah, I would have rolled.
Take a roll. Hey. See it
I came home. I realized I messed up my knee when I got home, because I'm not gonna pull up my leg and check it while I'm there in front of everybody. When I got home, I had a big old scab bleeding on the inside of my pants, man. Like, my shoes are done. I scratched up my shoes, so I had to go out and buy a new pair of shoes. Like, it was just a reminder. Like, look, little things like that. I was so busy just trying to help. If I didn't mention it could have waited the 5 minutes till we got back to the office.
Right. Man, look. I want to take that. Right. I want to take that and use that, and even the texting and driving. Right. So you missing that step again. You had divided who you are because you were trying to multitask, right? And you had assigned different tasks for your one person to do. And because you had divided yourself, all of a sudden you missed that step, right? Or when you're driving in the car and you're texting, you're dividing yourself. One portion of you is texting, the other portion of you is driving, and you almost get yourself in a situation. So that's just real life little signs that, hey, you need to be a whole version of yourself going through this life and going through the tasks that you have before you, because otherwise you're going to miss a step, or you're going to get into an accident that if you were whole, you would have never gotten into.
Be present at the moment. Yep.
100%.
Man. All right, cool. Man, listen, listeners, I promise you, if you go back and listen to number 111, and then you come back and listen to this one, it'll all make more sense, because the whole thing is about being whole, being your complete self, accepting the part of you that society shuns, so you hide it away, and then, or even just the part of you that you don't like. Man, that's you. That's who you are. So I'm gonna walk away from that for a second before we close up. But Jay, let me come to you, man. What's your fit tip for the week?
No doubt, man. I want to hit on, what I dealt with, like what we in the beginning of the cast, man, about just really dealing with that stuff that's going on in our minds. I think oftentimes we try to compartmentalize health. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you have the body, or maybe like you had a healthy weight in that sense, or your vitals read normal, but you got some stuff that you're not necessarily dealing with. You know what I mean? Or you got stuff that you're not facing. And stress has a way of, even if you think you're managing it, stress has a way of rearing its head in the most unopportune times and in most sometimes the ugliest time in the ugliest ways. You know what I mean? As speaking from experience, right? So definitely, if you, for some of us, we're trying to, whether it be lose the weight or get to another level in our health, and there's like a barrier, there's a fog that's stopping us from getting there, and the fog or the barrier is really, and it's really us. You know what I mean? And we try to put it on these other things, but it's really us. And what we're looking at is stuff that we don't want to face. It's like a mirror to ourselves, and we keep turning our head. So definitely take the time to address those areas of your life. Stop compartmentalizing your health and thinking, oh, because I have the number on the scale look good, everything else is good. That's not the case. That may not be the case. So definitely take the time to address what needs to be addressed so that you can live the life of wholeness and wellness that you deserve to live.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Yes, sir. Woo. Man, go back and listen to that one, ladies and gentlemen. Just rewind a little bit. Listen to that one all over again. That's not even the closing. Maybe you got me want to step my game up now. I'll let BJ talk. All right, coming live from the PTA meeting from the principal's office. We got BJ with his educational knowledge of the week.
So I was thinking about, like, in Florida, we just had the writing test open up last week, and a lot of kids are doing that. But there's something else that's been on my mind, and it goes back to the conversation I had over the last couple of years. Parents, this is the time of year. Parents, aunts, uncles, whoever's involved in a kid's educational plan, because we're a village, right? When you think about the courses your kids are going to take in the following year, now is the time to start having those conversations with the school. If they're transitioning from middle school to high school, look at the programs offered, what your kids are interested in. A lot of times we as parents, we push kids to where we want them to go, to the engineering, the maths, the biology, things like that. And again, our kids may be talented in that area, but that may not be their passion, right? That may not be, and again, they may not know what that is right now, but many conversations with parents over the last couple months about what their kids' interested in and what program or what high school, their kids should go into, middle school and high school, honestly. And it goes back to think about what's best for your child. You know your child better than probably anybody else out there, your niece, your nephew, whoever even your neighbor, if you're the active one in the neighbor as a mentor or whatever. But when you look at the course offerings, think about that. A lot of questions don't occur that if they want to get into a magnet program, especially in Florida, I can speak directly for that. A lot of the magnet programs, the gatekeeper is having taken Algebra 1 in middle school. Without having taken Algebra 1 in middle school, they cannot be accepted into that magnet program. So if you want them to go to the STEM program, a medical magnet program, whatever, if they did not plan their courses accordingly in middle school, they will not be allowed to, or unless they're going to be rushing to take the Algebra 1 course over the summer, right? And it's never a good idea to rush that type of math course. But these are things that most, the general public do not know about and do not understand. So we have to ask questions, and you need to start talking to kids early on. When you talk about programs out there, magnet programs, don't always go for and then it may sound like I'm against it, but I'm not against it. It's situational. It's not always the AP course. It's not the best choice even for the smartest kids. Because AP courses, if you look at statistically how many kids pass the AP test versus that they take the course, the pass percentage is very, very low. But those kids that take dual enrollment classes are coming out with the college credit, they're passing the college course, and at least some of them are even have their whole freshman year done by the time they're out of high school, or at least a good portion of their freshman year. Their second semester sophomores, their first year, right? So there's different plans and paths you can take. Start talking to the middle school, start talking to high school, start talking to make these guidance counselors earn their check. I said it, I love guidance counselors to death, but there's a lot of cases where they're not actually guiding our kids. And if your kid doesn't know their guidance counselor by name and has sat in office, you need to go make some noise.
Go make some noise in the school systems. Make some noise.
They don't like noise, trust me. You make noise or go to the media, you get your problems answered real quick. I'm not going to be popular for saying that one.
No, you might not be. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you again, of all the places that you can hear and even watch this podcast. Google Play, iTunes, Vimeo. Got Vimeo out early, fellas. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, many different places. And look, if there is a place, and I don't know how you're hearing this now, if it's not on your current platform that you listen to, but maybe a friend referred you to it. If there is a place that you want us to be, drop that on us as well, where you can get it regularly. You don't have to depend on your friend to send you the link. And look, we'd love to hear more from our listeners, because there's so many people out there. It's amazing how many people we talk to. We're like, oh, I heard your podcast. Whoa, you listen to my podcast? That's crazy. Right. But we definitely want to be able to communicate more with our listeners. And we're going to have some cool stuff coming out really soon. We'd love to hook up some of our listeners, get some of our stuff out there, man. We got some paraphernalia and things like that we'd love to get out to you. So if you listen, definitely leave us a review, hit us up, let us know you're out there. So to close us out, what I would say this week and your challenge this week, there are so many people out there that you are out there looking for a lighthouse. And you think that lighthouse is going to guide you where you need to go, when really and truly where you really need to find that lighthouse is internally. Stop depending on an external source. God gave you, or the creator or the universe, whatever you believe in, you were given that light on the inside. I don't know how many of you have ever gone out there and they said, man, that person's light shines really bright. That's just a metaphor to let you know the light is on the inside. So all the guidance you need, confer with that person that you've been suppressing, because whatever your weaknesses are, and let me take a little bit of extended time today, because you wonder why 50% of marriages fail, because you're projecting a person that you cannot hold up all the time, because that other person is in there. When that other person comes out, surprise, and it's not just one person doing it, it's the man and the woman, or the woman and the woman, or the man and the man, right? We got to be fair. And that's just something that you need to know. You're going to that job that you think you want, and then all of a sudden, weeks in, you're like, man, what am I doing here? I hate this. And that's because that other person that you suppressed during the interview is now showing themselves. Mm-hmm. So you need to get to that point where you let your light shine all the time. Some of you are only using 180 degrees of your light. So you're only shining half of the life that you should have. And if you let that light completely rotate and go around 360, you will find your way a lot better through this life. That's our message for you this week here on the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing.
100%.
We're out. See you next week.
Yeah, drop a bomb on that, baby.
The 13th floor. The 13th floor.